Hi, this is Howie Singer,
And Bill Rosenblatt.
authors of Key Changes, the 10 Times Technology Transformed the Music Industry.
You're listening to the Your Morning Coffee podcast with our friends Jay Gilbert and Mike Etchart.
Weekly music news for the new music business.
From Billboard, the Billboard Indie Power Players, they're asked, what moves the needle?
And from Forbes, what Suno and Udio's AI licensing deals with music majors could mean for creators' rights.
And from our friend Chris Castle at Music Technology Policy, it's time for fair play. AM radio must pay artists.
And from Music Business Worldwide, Sir Lucian Grainge's interview with Spotify's Alex Norström. 5 things we learned. All of this and late-breaking news about TikTok, Apple Music, Spotify, and so much more. So much more. So join me and Jay as we start the show right about now.
Stand by for transmission.
This is London calling.
Wake up! The revolution is at hand! Your morning coffee is on the air. 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 On the air.
Standing by.
Your morning coffee, the weekly music news for the new music business. It's the highly curated, agitated, advocated, moderated, and liberated digital music information that you need to know. We are your digital music authority. And now from our studios in Hollywood, California, here's your hosts, Jay Gilbert and Mike Etchart.
Good to see you, and oh my God, timeless music.
One of my all-time favorites. Just so sad to hear the passing of Brian Wilson.
Yes, the Beach Boys, of course, had 13 singles in the Billboard Top 10, with 3 of them reaching number 1. Paul McCartney recently said that Brian had a mysterious sense of musical genius that made his songs special. He said the notes he heard in his head and passed to us were simple and brilliant at the same time. I loved him and was privileged to be around his bright, shining light for a little while. And so true.
Yeah.
So true. And, you and I, you got to shoot him at his house.
Yeah.
Pretty amazing experience. And I got to sort of manage the Beach Boys catalog for a bit, and we were kind of in that slight orbit, but it's hard to, you can't really put it sounds kind of like over the top, just fandom, but really he changed music and the way music is recorded. And when you look at the Beatles and the Beach Boys in that competition, they were just one-upping each other.
Yeah.
And I don't know that they would have been as unbelievably creative as they were without each other.
sky. Through the rain, chase the dust away. Everybody wants to shine. Who'll come out on a cloudy day? 'Tis the sun that loves you brown. When the system tries to bring you down, never had to shine a dime.
And as you and I talked about before we hit record, Sly Stone passed away.
Sly Stone passed away, and they're both 82 actually. And again, both artists. And Sly Stone, there is no Prince, there is no, so many different artists that came after Sly Stone. And that wonderful documentary came out just fairly recently with Questlove.
So good.
So great. And there's actually a biography out, or a book that I have not read that I do want to read. But two giants passing, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Two giants passing.
Yeah, for sure. This last week, I was in New York for A2IM's Indie Week, and it was such a great week. One of the highlights of my trip was I got to have coffee with my friend Paul Sinclair, former Atlantic GM, where you might remember him. We had coffee at this place called 787. It was the best cappuccino I ever had in my life. Fantastic conversation. Always great to see Paul. I went to the presentation from Haley Jones and Chris Murator from Luminate. That was fantastic. Met up with some music attorney friends of ours and friends of the podcast, Bree and Alexis from Schwartz and Schreiber. That was a joy. Had dinner with my friend Michael Kaufman from the Clio Awards. There were just too many of these meetings to list them all, but it was a fantastic week in New York for Indie Week.
When I saw the picture of you and Michael out at your lengthy dinner.
Yeah, Patsy's. Yeah.
Nice. And this week we're sitting down with Dan Melnick. He's the general manager at Bandcamp. Fans have paid artists and their labels $1.5 billion using Bandcamp in the past years alone. They've spent almost $200 million on 13.5 million digital albums, 11 million tracks, 1.5 million vinyl records, 750,000 CDs, 300,000 cassettes, and 50,000 t-shirts.
Yeah, but who's counting? But
That's right.
We have a special episode that we're going to drop either Wednesday or Thursday with Dan. Don't miss that one. That's going to be good. This coming week, we're also dropping a behind the set list with Lyle Lovett, and that was such a great interview. Glenn and I are actually going to see him this Friday night at the Orpheum Theater. I've seen him many, many times. I worked his first 8 albums, but I'm a huge Lyle Lovett fan. He's so smart. He's so funny. Don't miss this Behind the Set List episode with Lyle Lovett.
Well, and the Orpheum Theater is a beautiful place to see a show.
Sure is.
You can have a great time. DEMA's 2025 annual report. DEMA, of course, is the Digital Media Association. It's the trade association representing streaming services like Spotify and Apple Music in the U.S. And in that annual report, a few key insights. 94% of streamers say they love or like their music streaming service. Nearly 250 million Americans streamed music in 2024, and streamers spend 26% more on recorded music than 5 years ago. Streamers dedicate 40% more listening time weekly on streaming services compared to broadcast radio. And 84% of users say streaming strengthens their connection with artists.
Yeah, great report card from DEMA's 2025 annual report, and special shout out to Graham Davies and Sally Rose Larson from DEMA. Sorry we missed each other in New York, but hopefully we'll see each other soon. Another thing in the news that I thought was interesting was Bonnaroo got canceled, and it was due to severe weather, and they're holding Bonnaroo in Manchester, Tennessee. And they shared the news on social media late Friday, saying that the updated forecast was showing unsustainable conditions for on-site campers and heavy thunderstorms that ripped through the area. So kind of a bummer for those wanting to attend Bonnaroo this year.
Yeah, that is a bummer indeed. A great piece from our friend Murray Stassen over at Music Business Worldwide. Sir Lucian Grainge's interview with Spotify's Alex Norström at Brilliant Minds. 5 things we learned. The conversation touched on everything from Grainge's approach to managing creative talent to his views on the role of AI and in music creation. During that wide-ranging discussion, Grainge reflected on his decades-long career in the music industry, emphasizing his identity as a talent scout and his passion for supporting both artists and entrepreneurs.
Yes, he did. Lucian Grainge also addressed the importance of responsible AI and protecting artists' rights in an era of rapidly advancing technology. So here are the 5 things that Murray Stassen and the team over at Music Business Worldwide, here are the 5 things that they learned. Number 1, Sir Lucian Grainge still considers himself a talent scout. Despite the position of head of the world's largest music rights holder, Universal, Grainge still sees himself as a talent scout.
Right. The number 2 point is global access to music due to streaming is creating opportunities for artists from previously underrepresented regions. He pointed to a recent awards ceremony as evidence of this shift. He said going back over the last 40 to 50 years, they would historically have given the creative awards to mostly Americans or Brits. But the 2 people given awards were from Korea and Puerto Rico.
Right. Number 3, AI can't replicate authentic artistry, but it can support the creative process. So UMG's chairman and CEO drew a clear line between AI's potential as a creative tool versus the limitations in replacing human creativity. Quote, "Do I think that the next Elton John will come from AI or from a program? The answer is that it can't," he stated firmly.
Right. The 4th point is responsible AI regulation is crucial for protecting artists' rights. He said something that I do care deeply about from a regulation and from a political point of view is responsible AI. He said protecting name and likenesses and authenticity and stopping the ability for someone to create falsehoods are things that I do care deeply about.
Right. And the last one, number 5, music's universal appeal makes it as essential as food and oxygen. I love this one. Grainge concluded the conversation by emphasizing music's fundamental importance to the human experience. He says, you can find people that don't like books, people that don't like the news, people that don't like TV series, people that don't go to movies, but it's impossible to find anyone who doesn't like music. I love that. There's a joy, rhythm, emotion, and I think music is as critical as food and oxygen.
Another story, it's from Symphonic. Everything you need to know about TikTok for artists. Last week, TikTok announced it's rolling out its long-awaited all-in-one music insights platform, TikTok for Artists. With this new platform, artists, labels, and their teams get valuable data and insights to strengthen their connection with TikTok's global community, boost their music's reach, and achieve success both on TikTok and beyond. Here is everything you need to know from that article.
That's right. Number 1, it's free to use and now available in 26 countries. With this tool, artists get valuable data like song insights, which is, daily metrics on how your songs are performing, including video creations, shares, and views, all broken down over time. Audience demographics, data on who's listening and engaging with details on location, age, range, gender, and language. Post analytics, and that's detailed performance stats for each TikTok post, including completion rate, very important, comments, and engagement spikes.
Right, and artists can also get data like pre-release tools. Artists can now launch pre-release campaigns directly in TikTok, allowing fans to pre-save tracks on streaming platforms. You can also get educational resources, a library of step-by-step guides to help artists better understand best practices, growth strategies, and platform tools.
Yeah, so now
valuable data.
Yeah, exactly. There's Spotify for artists, Apple Music for artists, Amazon Music for artists, et cetera, et cetera. Now there's TikTok for artists. The Grammy Awards unveiled the dates for the 2026 show and nominations announcement. But what's really interesting is they have some new categories, including Best Album Cover. I'll be entering that. The Recording Academy has revealed the key dates, deadlines, and rule amendments for the 68th Annual Grammy Awards, taking place on Sunday, February 1st, 2026, at Crypto.com Arena in Los Angeles, with nominations set to be announced on Friday, November 7th, 2025.
Right, and this is a story, by the way, from Jem Oswald in Variety. Following its annual board meeting, it has also announced several new awards and changes to the awards process, effective immediately. A link to the full Grammy rulebook is in that Variety article, which is in the newsletter.
That's right, and perhaps the most interesting among these new awards, Jem says, is Best Album Cover, which, like the introduction of Best Songwriter Awards 3 years ago, was surprising long-time omission, especially considering the long-time presence of Best Liner Notes and Packaging Awards. The two separate packaging awards have been combined into one now.
Right. So eligibility for Best New Artist has been expanded to include artists who have been previously nominated in Album of the Year, but whose contributions fell below the current 20% playing time threshold. This update allows acts who were credited as featured artists on projects that were Grammy nominated for Album of the Year in a previous awards cycle to be eligible for Best New Artist consideration.
That's right. And the existing Best Country Album category has been renamed Best Contemporary Country Album, and a new category, Best Traditional Country Album, has been added. So key dates for the 68th Annual Grammy Awards season, they're listed in the article, and those new rules, print that thing out.
So it's more Spotify in the news. Artists have been speaking out for years about the mental health struggles they face and the lack of support from the music industry. Spotify is stepping up to support the creators behind the music. They say for nearly a decade, our Heart and Soul program has supported employee mental health, and now we're expanding it to the music community through Heart and Soul. Mental health for creators, we're partnering with Backline, Music Cares, Music Health Alliance, and Music Minds to deliver tailored mental health support and resources to artists, songwriters, and their teams worldwide.
Yeah, kudos to Spotify for this. Key features of this program, there's a few of them. One is one-on-one therapy access. So it's free support for platforms like Equal, Glow, and Radar, ambassadors in the US and UK, and that's via Backline. Number two is direct funding. So these are grants to nonprofits, including We Got You, which is Chapel Roan's Backline Fund, Noah Kahan's The Busy Head Project, Music Cares, which is great, Music Minds Matter, and Music Health Alliance to expand artist-centered care. Oh, and the other one is a global expansion of Backline's resource hub. It's a first of its kind destination for artist mental health support, and that's launching worldwide.
Right. Additional features include support for songwriters, holding space for songwriters to discuss mental health and access support through residencies, dinners, panels, and more, and artist-centered wellness at events, on-site support through wellness spaces, expert-led panels, workshops, and self-care kits at festivals, studios, green rooms, and residencies.
Yeah, I think this is fantastic. The last two were tools for everyday care, and that's on Spotify, curated playlists, podcasts, audiobooks, and self-care tips. And that's available not just on Spotify, but online in general. And then the last one, editorial and social support, mental health storytelling and resources featured across Spotify for artists and Spotify songwriters channels. So thank you, Spotify, for that.
Right, and it's nice to see this continued sort of emphasis on mental health in the space. Very, very important. This next one from Music Business Worldwide: Trump set to extend TikTok divest or ban deadline for the third time, actually. That's according to the Wall Street Journal, which cited people familiar with the president's plan as saying that Trump is expected to push back the deadline currently set to June 19th, when parent company ByteDance must sell its U.S. TikTok operations or face a ban in the country.
That's right. Trump has already extended the deadline twice through executive action, pushing the current date out by 150 days. So administration officials cited stalled negotiations with China over a trade policy as the primary obstacle to completing the deal for the sale of TikTok to an American entity. And again, that's from the Wall Street Journal. The U.S. and China last month agreed to a 90-day truce to their trade war, buying a little more time for TikTok to reach a deal.
Right. So how about some Apple Music news? This is from Music Ally. 3 powers only Apple Music for artists gives artists to maximize a song's impact. They say when it comes to releasing a new song, the ability to monitor how it's connecting with fans and take actions to deepen these connections is key, and there's no better place to do this, they say, than Apple Music for Artists. Here are 3 things artists can do in Apple Music for Artists that they can't do on any other music creator platform.
Yeah, let's take a look. Number 1, track a song's Shazam count in more than 200 countries and territories and celebrate their new Shazam milestone with fans. For those that don't know, Apple bought Shazam a while back, and in Apple Music for Artists, you can see where people are Shazamming your songs. Number 2, monitor radio spins across more than 40,000 terrestrial and digital stations worldwide at no cost. And then the last one, number 3, create a set list playlist to promote your upcoming tour and tie it to your show dates on Shazam.
Right. Apple Music for Artists is available to all artists who have released music on Apple Music. To learn how to fully activate your power, head over to artist.apple.com. And did I mention I love Shazam, Jay?
I do too.
Shazam. It's the best. In other Apple news, Apple adds lyrics, translations, and karaoke features. This is from Mandy DeLugdug over at Music Business Worldwide. The new features are part of the incoming iOS 26 update. Among them, the lyrics translation feature allows users to understand song meanings in foreign languages without having to visit external sites.
That is so cool. The updates for Apple Music also include Auto Mix, and that's a feature that creates continuous playlists based on previously played songs. This could be a challenger to Spotify's AI DJ functionality, which launched in February 2023. As Apple Music explained it, Auto Mix uses intelligence to transition from one song to the next like a DJ does, using time stretching and beat matching to seamlessly move from one song to the next. A couple of cool features.
That really is, my God. Well, before we get going on our main stories, Jay, what do you say we thank our sponsors? We are super lucky to have them and certainly appreciate their participation every week because we couldn't do it without them.
Yeah, we really do appreciate it. The Your Morning Coffee podcast is sponsored by Disc Makers. If you're listening to this podcast, you already know Disc Makers. They make some of the highest quality CDs and DVDs in the country. They also specialize in short-run vinyl, very important, with minimum orders of just 100 vinyl records. And they're also great guides. We use them whenever we need discs for our clients. So Disc Makers is partnered with an exciting new startup called Spinny Media. And that does warehousing and order fulfillment for physical media, CDs, vinyl, cassettes, yes, cassettes, and more. You pay a monthly subscription as low as $2, and they fulfill your orders. You pay no pick fees or commissions. They have their own Shopify, Amazon, and eBay stores, and also fulfill your Bandcamp and website orders. Very cool. A needed service for independent labels and artists looking to sell more physical albums without having to stuff envelopes and run to the post office themselves. So between Disc Makers and Spinny, you now have a great supply chain solution for end-to-end manufacturing, warehousing, and order fulfillment of physical goods. Check out discmakers.com or spinnymedia.com. That's SPINNEY, spinnymedia.com.
And we have been clients for a very long time.
Absolutely.
We're not even going to say how long that's been, but let's just go with a very long time. We're also sponsored by the Mechanical Licensing Collective. The MLC is a nonprofit organization that's making a big difference for songwriters, music publishers, and other rights holders by transforming how they receive mechanical streaming royalties from services like Spotify and Apple Music in the U.S. Every month, the MLC collects the streaming data and royalties from those platforms, matches the money to the creator who has earned it, and then pays them or their publishers and administrator partners the royalties they are due. To date, the MLC has already distributed over $2.5 billion, yes, that's billion with a B, in total royalties and has nearly 50,000 members worldwide. If you're a songwriter, composer, or lyricist with music streaming, or a publisher or administrator, you need to become a member of the MLC to ensure you're not leaving any money on the table. Best of all, membership is completely free, and the MLC pays out 100% of the royalties it receives. You can jump over to themlc.com to learn more. And dude, nobody wants to leave money on the table.
Absolutely.
So,
and a special thank you to Billboard Pro. You want to know what everybody in the music business is talking about? Get in the know with Billboard Pro. We're subscribers. Billboard is offering Your Morning Coffee readers and listeners a special 50% discount off of the price of your subscription. So click on the link in Your Morning Coffee.
Indeed, a fabulous resource, to say the least. We are also sponsored by Hypebot. Since 2004, Hypebot has chronicled the new music industry and the trends and technologies that are changing how music is discovered, consumed, marketed, and monetized. It is edited daily by founder Bruce Houghton with help from Alana Bonilla. Hypebot and sister blog Music Think Tank are published by live music discovery and marketing platform Bands in Town.
Yeah, and special shout out to Bands in Town. Over 90 million live music fans trust Bands in Town to get personalized concert alerts, recommendations, and messages from their favorite artists. It's the #1 artist services platform, and it connects over 650,000 artists with their superfans. Managers, labels, agencies, and artists access their own dashboard to manage and promote their tour dates across all platforms.
Indeed. And every week I get to hang out with the silver-tongued devil himself, Jay Gilbert. He's a music industry consultant. He's the curator of the weekly Your Morning Coffee newsletter and a former executive with Universal Music, Sony Music, and Warner Music Groups.
Yes, sir. And every week I get to do this show with my good friend Mike Etchart, longtime host of Sound and Vision Radio, formerly of SST Records, Warner Music, Capital EMI, and Universal Music Group. And next time I go to Indie Week, I'm going to drag him along with me.
Yes, I need to go. It's just got a bad time for me, but maybe they'll move the date and everything for me.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Just maybe.
Sure.
Maybe. All right. Our first story, Jay, it's from Billboard by Andrew Unterberger. Billboard Indie Power Players. These Indie Power Players were asked one of the following two questions. What moves the needle and how the indie world has changed? And here are a few of our favorite responses.
Right. The first one is from Lisa Resco from A2IM. They asked her, what moves the needle? And she said, artists need real support systems, fair policies, transparent revenue streams, and legislation that protects their rights.
Jorge Brea over at Symphonic Distribution, when responding to what moves the needle, said no amount of talent offsets the need for an artist to have a fan base. The best music on earth will fall flat if no one is there to hear the release or buy tickets to the show.
Amen, brother. The next one is from our friend Dan Gill over at BMG, and he was asked how the indie world has changed, and he said, more than ever, independent labels have a responsibility to invest in artist storytelling and brand building initiatives to generate real fan engagement.
Right. Our friend Jeremy Sirota over at Merlin, when responding to how the indie world has changed, said, we're in a next wave of digital upheaval defined by disruption, emerging business models, and the rapid rise of AI, or artificial intelligence. He said a decade ago, launching a new service or app was far more complex. Today, new platforms emerge constantly, especially outside the music industry.
Right. Patrick Amory from Matador was asked what moves the needle. And he said, of course, one can always list touring, socials, incredible visuals, interesting collaborations, and new studio tracks dropping after the album release. But without life-changing music, the rest is just window dressing.
Glenn Barros over at Acceleration Music, when responding to how the indie world has changed, said major label consolidation has provided fewer good choices for labels wishing to stay truly independent. He said, we stand firm in our belief that a healthy industry needs healthy alternatives to those systems.
Yeah, and the next one is from Phil Bauer from DistroKid. How has the indie world changed? He said the focus has moved away from chasing viral moments and toward long-term connection and control.
Right. And Freddie Becerra over at K-Music, again responding to about how the indie world has changed, says today many artists are building their own labels from the ground up, supported by flexible label service partners that deliver across A&R, marketing, and commercial strategy.
Yeah, Andre Benz from Broke Records responded to how the indie world has changed. He said, you can have a hit single now and in a matter of several weeks and not spend $1 if you're lucky. The landscape didn't exist 10 years ago, and the freedom to do what you like How You Like It didn't either.
Don Cannon over at Generation Now said artists are moving smarter. They're building real businesses, leveraging tech, and tapping into major opportunities without losing their freedom. Independence isn't just an option anymore. He says it's the blueprint.
Brett Koppel, Artist Partner Group, said, when they asked what moves the needle, he said, a song on TikTok isn't just fighting for space with other music. It's going head to head with brand campaigns, influencer drops, and comedy skits. The artists who break through are the ones who work.
And Mike Curb from Curb Records, talking about what moves the needle, said the combination of coordinating the DSPs, social media, and radio to build positive streaming and overall consumption.
Okay. And then Daniel Glass from Glassnote, when asked what moves the needle, he said hard work and hustle. Artists need to be relentless and create their own spark. Once that spark is lit, the label can turn it into a flame and then a fire. The days of simply pushing a button and jamming a record onto the charts, they're over.
Right. Gregory Hirshorn over at Too Lost, again, talking about what moves the needle, said, I feel like this will always remain the same. Good music. He said that evokes an emotional reaction from an audience. If you combine that with the right team, good tech and infrastructure and proper capital, you have a recipe for success.
Yeah, I like that proper capital.
Exactly.
Our friend Matt Lamott from Giant Music, when he was asked how the indie world has changed, he said commercial success, ambitious global marketing, bold creative swings. So many of these were seen as the dominion of the majors, and now we see success coming from everywhere, which is how it should be.
Yeah, and Gordon Kerb, Black River Records, again responding to how the indie world has changed, said it has shifted away from always feeling like the potential underdog to a space of agile innovation and influence. Direct-to-fan platforms, AI tools, short-form content, and other ideas yet to be implemented are beginning to give independent labels and artists more control, speed, and global reach than ever before.
Right, and the last one we have here is from David Macias from 30 Tigers. And when asked what moves the needle, he said, social media, of course, but we're still big believers in press, radio, indie retail, and touring. It takes several impressions to dent the consciousness of consumers. And we try to emphasize those mediums that facilitate long-form narrative or a direct visceral experience with the act and their music. Well put, David. Great piece from our friends over at Billboard.
Yeah, absolutely. And we both, of course, have worked in the world of independent labels, and it is a different world. It is definitely different, and you definitely see a lot more things than you would kind of in a typical major label environment. Our next story, Jay, is from our friend Virginie Berger for Forbes, I should say, what Suno and Udio's AI licensing deals with music majors could mean for creators' rights. She says major record labels have shifted from legal crusaders to would-be business partners in the space of a year. When Universal Music Group, Warner Music Group, and Sony Music filed copyright infringement suits against AI startups Suno and Udio last summer, the industry assumed a bruising court fight was inevitable.
Yeah, but 9 months later, the same companies are at the table hammering out AI music licensing deals that would let the startups keep training on label catalogs, providing the labels and eventually the artists get paid.
These talks are not just about settling a lawsuit. They are about setting the rules, or perhaps abandoning them, for how copyrighted music is used in training AI, how future licensing structures might look, and who gets to be in the room when those decisions are made. For many artists, this is deja vu. And not the good kind, she says.
Right. So they're going from exploiters to partners, she said. The pivot is striking. Just months ago, the majors accused Suno and Udio of having trained their models on copyrighted sound recordings at an almost unimaginable scale, offering prompts that could generate near identical copies of existing songs. The Recording Industry Association of America, that's the RIAA, alleged mass infringement and sought sweeping legal remedies.
Well, now, according to the Wall Street Journal, the labels are seeking licensing fees, compensation for past use, and minority equity stakes in both companies. In return, the startups would receive the right to continue using major label catalogs to train their models with new controls and attribution systems in place.
Right. Among the key conditions, one is a fingerprinting and attribution layer modeled after YouTube's Content ID system. The technology, if feasible, would enable Suno and Udio to trace how and when songs influence AI outputs, allowing rights holders to track usage and collect revenue accordingly. The labels also want veto power over future AI music tools, including voice cloning features and remix suites, a position one executive compared to the controls labels already exercise in sync licensing deals.
Right. She says, but even as these negotiations accelerate, one truth remains unaddressed. Labels don't control everything. As Gadi Oron, who's the CEO of CSAC, the global body representing authors' societies, points out, negotiating solely with the majors will not provide the full set of rights required by AI companies. Labels can only license the rights they control, which are the rights in the master recordings.
Yeah, that's right. Underlying compositions, that's the publishing, lyrics. The lifeblood of the songs are typically managed by collective management organizations, or CMOs. And these rights have not been part of the current licensing discussions. By the way, a little side note, CMO, yes, it stands for collective management organizations. That's a collection society that enables copyright owners and administrators to collect royalties generated by several types of use, unlike PROs, which track and collect only performance royalties. CMOs collect both performance and mechanical royalties. Just want to point that out.
Right. Good point. So Virginie goes on to say, Suno and Udio, why these startups matter. These are not trivial or speculative technologies. Suno and Udio have evolved from experimental demos to near production level tool sets. Suno's June 2025 update allows users to upload full tracks, manipulate them with weirdness and reference sliders, and export 12 multi-track stems to a digital audio workstation. Udio's most recent build added intro verse drop sectioning, faster generation times, and support for hybrid genre compositions.
Yeah, but these features are only possible because the underlying models were trained on enormous data sets, including, by many indications, commercially released music without permission.
Right, and while Suno claims its models don't memorize or reproduce music, evidence from lawsuits shows that, when prompted, they've generated lyrics and melodies identical or nearly identical to protected songs.
Right. So Virginie points out 5 unanswered questions, and here they are. Amid all the strategy, 5 foundational questions remain unanswered. Number 1, can fingerprinting systems actually trace micro stylings within a diffusion model? What the hell is that? Or will they catch obvious replicas? Number 2, will voice and likeness rights be negotiated separately from master and publishing rights, or will they be bundled in? Number 3, how will royalty statements for model training be structured? Per API call, per generated second, per dataset token?
Right. So the fourth and the fifth unanswered questions. Number 4, could this moment spark the creation of a compulsory AI training license akin to mechanicals for reproduction rights? And number 5, and if the labels take an equity stake in Suno and Udio, will creators see any share of that upside? Sheesh. Well, we've presented only some of the highlights from Virginie's comprehensive piece for Forbes. It's a long read, but man, it is highly recommended and well worth your time. Of course, it is in the newsletter, so do check it out. And we're going to have breakfast with her someday in the near future, and we're going to certainly talk about this.
Yeah, we had that AI roundtable for those that missed it, with Bobby Osinski and Matt Adele and Virginie and Kristen Robinson from Billboard. And we're all going to go have waffles together soon. That's going to be fun.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Gotta love waffles.
So our final story today is from our good friend, Chris Castle, over at Music Technology Policy. And the headline is, "It's time for fair play. AM radio must pay artists." And Chris starts it off by saying that Congress is now debating whether to mandate AM radio in all new vehicles, but broadcasters still refuse to pay artists when they play recorded music. The American Music Fairness Act, AMFA, that we talk about a lot here, would finally require radio stations to pay performance royalties, just like streaming services already do.
Right. So the AM Radio in Every Vehicle Act, which would require automakers to include free AM radio in all new cars, citing public safety needs, but automakers and artists demand that any AM radio mandate to include fair pay for radio play. Artists, automakers, and advocates are urging lawmakers to pass both the AM Radio in Every Vehicle Act and AMFA to ensure fair compensation for the musicians who power America's airwaves. Here's why this fight matters and how you can take action.
That's right. Fair pay for radio play. Say that 3 times fast. For decades, U.S. AM and FM radio stations have broadcast music recordings without paying performers a dime. Meanwhile, U.S. digital streaming services, satellite radio, and nearly every country of the world pay artists when their work is played. This gaping loophole is both grotesquely unfair and astonishingly outdated, and Congress now has a rare opportunity to fix it once and for all.
Right. So the problem, of course, is radio's free ride. Altogether, American radio stations generate billions in advertising revenue, largely courtesy of the music they play. But unlike Spotify or SiriusXM, terrestrial radio pays nothing to the artists whose recordings attract listeners.
That's right. When you hear a song on AM or FM radio in the United States, the singer, the drummer, and the producer receive zero compensation. Only the songwriter gets paid, which is how it should be, but it's not enough. And this is why big radio's biggest lie is, quote unquote, we pay for music. What should happen is radio needs to come up with additional cash for artists, not expect artists and songwriters to divide up what the songwriter gets now.
Well, and as Jay and I have mentioned so many times since we started this podcast, the U.S. is practically alone in this policy. Authoritarian regimes like North Korea follow a similar no-pay model, but every other country ensures that artists are compensated for their recordings on the radio.
Right, and let's listen to what artists are saying, according to Chris. You know, our friend Blake Morgan, who we've had on the podcast, he's the founder of I Respect Music, the hashtag I Respect Music campaign. He puts it bluntly in his appeal to Congress, quote, broadcasters have never paid a penny to the artists who make their profits possible. We are writing to ask for your help and finally bring an end to this injustice, end quote.
Right. And Chris says he is, of course, right. U.S. broadcasters play over 240 million songs a year, all without compensating the artists who made them. And because American radio refuses to pay, other countries with reciprocal laws also withhold royalties from American performers. As Blake says, it's a de facto global trade embargo on the U.S.
Yeah, and then Chris says, let's take a look at what automakers and the Music First are saying. The Alliance for Automotive Innovation and Zero Emission Transportation Association recently wrote to Congress, quote, Congress should not mandate the use of an infringing platform that exploits artists by not paying them for their work, end quote. The Music First Coalition that has led this fight for the AMFA legislation to fix artist pay for radio play emphasizes this.
They continued by saying mandating AM radio without addressing the performance royalty issue would perpetuate an inequity that denies hundreds of millions of dollars in compensation to countless recording artists every year. Chris says they're right. It is indefensible for Congress to force automakers to preserve a system that profits from music but pays nothing to those who create it.
Right. So finally, Chris points out, what can you do about it? And he says, we don't ask you to make calls very often, but this is one of those times. Please call your U.S. representative and senators today. They need to hear that artists deserve fairness. Congress can deliver fairness by passing both the American Music Fairness Act and the AM Radio in Every Vehicle Act, but only if AM radio mandates include royalties for the performers who make the music. No musician should be exploited for radio profits.
Right. Ask them to support both of these bills together. That's the American Music Fairness Act, that's AMFA, and the AM Radio in Every Vehicle Act, but only if it includes performance royalties for artists. Time to fix this injustice. And please, let's respect the music and the musicians. There are simple instructions on how to contact your representatives in Chris's article. And that, of course, is in the Your Morning Coffee newsletter. Do check it out. And again, it is shameful that, I mean, we've been doing this for 4+ years, and we've talked about this so much. And here we are. We still can't get it across the finish line. And it's just shameful.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Well, it's time to wrap up the show, and we want to thank our sponsors like Disc Makers, the MLC, Billboard Pro, Hypebot, and Bands in Towns. We certainly appreciate it and could not do the show without their participation. And, of course, the music underlying the show is by the Licorice Quartets, a band that Jay and I both love.
Yeah.
Absolutely love. So, and if you enjoy the show, please tell just one friend. Jay and I would certainly appreciate that. So, on behalf of the silver, you're going to be the silver-tongued devil now for a long time. I love that. I love that line. On behalf of Jay Gilbert, I say thanks for listening, and we'll be back next week on the Your Morning Coffee Podcast.
You've been listening to Your Morning Coffee, the weekly music news program for the new music business. Join Jay Gilbert and Mike Etchart next time for the digital music news you need to know.